I first and foremost send my condolences to you brothers and sisters for the 40th or the Arba'een of Imam Hossein alayhi salam. As I'm sure you've seen in the news that this year, alhamdulillah, estimates of maybe around 15 million people, 19 million people have gathered to visit the shrine of Imam Hossein. Is a beautiful gathering. As you know, those that have been there, many walk barefoot, even maybe take off their shoes. And many of the locals there provide food, even if they don't have much food or income themselves, they provide for the pilgrims of Imam Hossein. Each stop they have food, they give them shelter, they give them a home, a place to stay. And it is a beautiful event, and it is something that inshallah we ask Allah first to make us next year of those that go and visit Imam Hossein in Arbaeen, inshallah. And we ask Allah to provide safety for those that have gone and for those that will return, inshallah. Please recite a salawat, inshallah. I wish that Mutawakkil Abbasi, which was one of the Abbasid caliphs, who destroyed the shrine of Imam Hossein 17 times in his lifespan. I wish that he was alive to see that whatever they tried to do, whatever the Abbasids tried to do to destroy the shrine of Imam Hossein, that they can't remove our love for Imam Hossein. And as they say, some people have said that even if they cut our limbs, we will still crawl to the shrine of our masters, Imam Hossein alayhi salam. Please recite a salawat, inshallah. The ziyarat of Imam Hossein is something that's encouraged, not only just to go once. In some of our narrations, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam complains about the Shia. He says that it had been a year, some of them, a year passes and they do not visit the shrine of Imam Hossein. In some different narrations, it says if somebody is rich enough that can afford it, they should maybe visit the shrine of Imam Hossein twice a year. And if somebody is poor, maybe once a year. So it is something that is continuous. It's not just once visiting. Because as it says in the narrations, if a pilgrim knew how great and how worthy and how much virtue the ziyarat of Imam Hossein has, they would die from happiness. They would die from happiness. Those that in the Day of Judgment, it will be called Aina Zawar al-Hussein. Where are the pilgrims of Imam Hossein? They will be given a specific place. In another narration, and these narrations that I mentioned, there's a book that I believe has been translated recently in English. It's called Kamil al-Ziyarat from Ibn Qulaway. This is a very authentic book. It's a very old book, maybe 1,050 years old, 1,100 years old. Ibn Qulaway was one of the students of Shaykh Mufid. He's buried. Shaykh Mufid wanted to be buried next to his teacher, Ibn Qulaway. And there are 750 narrations in this book about visiting, about ziyarat, about pilgrimage. 500 of those ziyarats, of those narrations, are about the ziyarat of Imam Hossein. In one of those narrations, it says that when a pilgrim goes to Karbala, there is a cry, and they don't hear that cry. Later on, when they hear in the Day of Judgment, when that cry comes, what was it? It was that Tuba, like, good for you. All your sins have been removed for the pilgrim of Imam Hossein. So these were some narrations about the virtue of visiting Imam Hossein. And if you can find this book, I recommend you, brothers and sisters. It's called Kamil al-Ziyarat from Ibn Qulaway. But as we know, tonight is the night of Arba'een, and tomorrow is the day of Arba'een. People ask, what is Arba'een, and how come we don't have Arba'een or we don't have 40th for our other Imams? Arba'een, as far as I know, according to our narrations and according to what I've read, this is exclusive to Imam Hossein. We don't have Arba'een for the other infallibles. Just like the dirt of Imam Hossein is exclusive, that it provides shafa and it provides its medicine, it's a cure for any type of sickness, so is this Arba'een of Imam Hossein. It is exclusive for Imam Hossein. It's interesting to note that we have narrations that even that Imam Rida alayhi salam, the 8th Imam, discouraged us from taking his dirt to making it a torba or making it a mud of prostration. But still, we do this. But the dirt of Imam Hossein alayhi salam is one of the benefits that it does is it removes 7 barriers. When we pray with it in salat, it removes 7 barriers for us. So just like this is very exclusive to Imam Hossein, so is Arba'een. So this is something that is in narrations. The main narration we have about Arba'een is from Imam Hassan al-Askari. Please recite the salawat, inshallah. This narration is the main narration we have about Arba'een. It says that for a mu'min there are 5 signs for a mu'min, a believer. One of them is that they say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim out loud. The second is that they pray 51 units of prayer a day, meaning the nawafil, the mustahab prayers. The third is that they wear a ring on the right hand. And the fourth is that basically they do Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim out loud, they do 51 prayers, and they do sujood on the turbat of Imam Hossein. They do sujood on the dirt. They do sujood on dirt. And the fifth is they do ziyarat of Arba'een. So there's 5 signs, 5 symbols that a believer has. One of those is doing ziyarat of Arba'een. And this doesn't necessarily mean that if we're not there, it means that we cannot perform this action. Tomorrow before noon, we can take ghusl or take a shower of ziyarat, and we can perform this ziyarat. It's called Ziyaratul Arba'een, and you can find it. It's in the Mafatih, and it is maybe a page or 2 pages long. It is a ziyarat that is from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and it's narrated from Misbah al-Mutahajjid and from Tahdhib al-Ahkam. And also about Arba'een, Shaykh Tusi narrates that the 20th is the day that it is recommended to do this ziyarat. So we have basically in 2 or 3 different sources, credible sources, that Arba'een exists and the ziyarat of Arba'een is recommended. Please recite a salawat, inshallah. Tonight, what I would like to talk about, that was a beginning that will bring us to this discussion, is that I would like to give commentary tonight and tomorrow night on Ziyaratul Arba'een. As I mentioned, it's that ziyarat that's 1 page or 2 pages long, and there are 4 lessons that we can learn from this ziyarat. 2 of these lessons I would like to present to you tonight. The other 2 lessons I would like to present to you, if Allah gives me tawfiq, to present to you tomorrow night. So 4 lessons from Ziyaratul Arba'een. And I recommend for you brothers and sisters, when you read it, the ziyarat tomorrow, to read the English as well. Or those that can't read the Arabic, the transliteration, they can read the transliteration of it. And it has a very deep meaning, because this ziyarat is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The first lesson that we can learn, and as you brothers and sisters know, our du'as, our supplications, our ziyarats aren't only for us to become elevated spiritually. It's also for us to learn. And in our du'as, like in Du'a Kumayr, there's things that we learn. There's things in aqaid and ma'arif that we learn. And in this ziyarat, there's things that we learn. And the first thing that we can learn about this ziyarat, the first question that people ask and this ziyarat answers, is that why did Imam Hossein uprise? Why did he revolt? And the reason for this, the reason for Imam Hossein uprising is in this ziyarat. But it's important to know one thing, that when we say why did Imam Hossein rise, we never mean that he chose a specific way of life compared to the other Imams. One of the scholars had a nice theory, and I liked it, and I'd like to share that to you. He said that, he presented it this way. He said, imagine the 250 years that we had imamat. Imagine that maybe we could title it as if it was just one human from the beginning to the end. And according to those circumstances, that human would do different things. They would have either a peace treaty with Muawiyah, they would sometimes fight, they would sometimes teach. So basically, imagine the 12 Imams as just one Imam. But due to the circumstances of that time period, each one chose how to serve Allah, the best way to save Islam, the best way to teach. So Imam Hossein alayhi salam, before we begin to explain why did he revolt, we don't mean that why did Imam Hassan alayhi salam not revolt, because Imam Hossein also lived 10 years. He was an Imam for 10 years and he did not revolt, right? It was after Yazid became the Khalif. So in the second note that before I'd like to address why did Imam Hossein revolt, is that basically we don't claim to understand everything about Karbala. Karbala has different layers, has inner meanings. Just how the Quran has different meanings, the occurrence of Karbala. The narrations have different meanings, inner meanings. Butun, they call it, Batin, they call it. Karbala also has an apparent meaning and an inner meaning. So I'm not claiming that I understand everything exactly, because this is an event that Karbala was an event that they told all the prophets from Adam alayhi salam. They told Adam that this event would happen, and all the prophets cried for this, for what was going to happen to Imam Hossein. So it's much bigger than what we think. So when I describe the illat, or the cause of Imam Hossein revolting, this does not have to do with me claiming to understand fully what's happening. This is one layer of the apparent understanding. In the Ziyarat Name, or in the Ziyarat, we read, وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيكَ, and sacrificed his soul for you. Why? This lam is the lam of ta'lil. It says the reason, the cause. لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ, so that he may save your servants from ignorance. وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ, and the confusion of misguidance. So according to this dua, it says Imam Hossein alayhi salam came and revolted for what? To save us from ignorance and to save us from misguidance. Muhja, you might read in the ziyarah, it means basically blood that comes from the heart, arteries, his soul. He gave the blood that comes from the heart. When somebody, basically, the cause for this, when conditions become so dark that teaching and giving commentary do not have an effect anymore, Imam Hossein alayhi salam came to a dead end. And this was the only way, and that God commanded him, this was the only way for him to preserve Islam, to save Islam. Because after what happened, and I recommend to you to read, there's different books about Imam Hossein alayhi salam, the role of the revival of Islam by the Imams. And basically, what happened is that there was a dead end, and that Imam Hossein alayhi salam was forced to come out with his family, and basically to save us from jahalat. And after he did this, And the first step was for what Imam Hossein alayhi salam did, and the second step was from Imam Sajjad and Hazrat Zainab salamullah alayha, what she did. And basically, it shows that one thing that I'd like to mention is that jahalat and ignorance is one of the things that we all go against and that we all are trying to fight, because ignorance, as it says in this narration, says, Ya Abu Dhar, when the Prophet said to Abu Dhar, when God wants good for you, right? And when God wants good for you, for you, He gives you understanding of His religion. So ignorance is something that is very bad. And when Allah wants us, loves us, He gives us deep understanding. So Imam Hossein alayhi salam was trying to help the people understand, get them out of ignorance. The second reason that Imam Hossein alayhi salam revolted, and this is more of the inner meaning, is that we read, As-salamu ala waliyallahi wa habibeh, As-salamu ala khalilillahi wa najibeh. Right? The second meaning of Ashura, of why Imam Hossein alayhi salam revolted, has to do more with that Allah wants us to just love Him. And the more that we only love Him, the more we sacrifice just for Him, the more we give up what we have just for Him, we become His Habibullah. We become somebody that loves Him, exactly, just Him. And even though Imam Hossein alayhi salam loved Allah, Allah wanted to show people that somebody, one of His pure servants, can give up everything for Him in front of everybody. So that's the inner meaning of Ashura. So that was the first lesson, is why did Imam Hossein revolt? And to review, it was to save us from ignorance and misguidance. Please recite a salawat, inshallah. The second thing that we can learn from Ziyarat Arba'een is what caused the people that oppressed Imam Hossein, what caused them to become hostile towards the Imam. Because it's hard for us to imagine that the Imams, with such a holy presence, somebody coming and trying to damage them, coming to hurt them. It's very hard for us to imagine this. And the answer to this is that it was because of the love of the world, the love of the material world, that people came and decided to attack Imam Hossein alayhi salam. And I will read for you the ziyarat. It says, وَقَدْ تَوَازَرَ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ غَرَّتْهُ دُنْيَا. Yet those whom were seduced by the worldly life, وَبَاءَ حَظَّهُ بِالْأَرْضَ لِلْأَدْنَى, who sold their share, their fate at the lowest and smallest price. وَشَرَى آخِرَتَهُ بِالثَّمَنِ الْأَوْكَسِ, and traded their hereafter at the cheapest price. وَتَقَطْرَسَ وَتَرَدَّى فِي هَوَى, they acted arrogantly, were destroyed by following their desires. So basically, in this, when we come to analyze this, it says they have sold their share, they have sold their fate, their fortune. And what did they get? At the smallest price. What does this mean to sell our fortune, to sell our fate? Basically, for us to understand this, I will explain this to you, is that everything in this life that we have to give something to gain something. If we, for example, want to work and read, to study, we have to give up an hour of our lifetime to gain, say, this much knowledge, right? So basically, our life, in the Islamic interpretation, our life is invaluable, right? Because with this life, we gain things. We gain perfection, and we gain a a place for ourselves in the hereafter. So each time as it ticks and it passes away, the more valuable it is, right? I mean, it's valuable each second that we lose. Now imagine a lifetime. And to make this clear, imagine if somebody had, say, $1 million and they were to, say, for example, burn, dollar by dollar, burn their money, right? We would say they were crazy. Now imagine if somebody were to get that $1 million and were to purchase torture for themselves. They would spend their own money to purchase themselves, to torture themselves. We would say they were crazy. So in this part of this narration, it's saying they have sold their fortune. They have sold what they had at the lowest price. And not only at the lowest price, they have purchased hellfire for themselves. So that is one lesson for us to learn, is that God has given us an invaluable gift, and that is our life. And we can either burn this life away by just wasting it, by doing normal activities that was just waste time, or even worse, with our time, we can purchase torture and punishment for ourselves. Or we can be like those that were the followers of the Imam. We can, with our lifespan, purchase heaven for ourselves and purchase the rida, or the approval of Allah. The Prophet says to Abu Dhar, and in a beautiful narration, he says, be more stingy or tight-fisted to your life than you are to your money. When your time is so invaluable, because each second, if we were to pass away, we wish that we just mentioned one more La ilaha illallah. So be more stingy. Ya Abu Dhar, kun ala umrik ashahha ala dirhamik wa dinarik. Be more stingy on your time and how you spend your time than how you are on your money. The second point that we can learn from this is that basically, what did I mention? I said that what caused those that were hostile to Imam Hossein, what caused them to fight against Imam Hossein? We said it was the love of the material world. The love of the material world itself is a poison, right? According to all our scriptures, according to all our traditions, the love of this world is itself something that causes forgetfulness of the akhirah. And the more we love the world, the more we have material desires, the more we'll forget about akhirah. And there are 5 signs, and in this love, I'm not claiming that I don't have love of the material. Everybody has it. There's 5 maybe steps that this poison can affect us, right? And at the end, this love of the world can become so cancerous that it could cause somebody to even harm the Imam, right? So the first step that if we want to test ourselves and we want to see if the material world has caused us, please recite salawat, inshallah. The first thing to see if the material world has affected us, if its poison has affected us, is to see how much do we like the dunya, how much do we like it, how much do we like to talk about it. When we sit with our friends, how much do we just like to talk about, oh, this came out, I like that, that's good. How much do we talk about the akhirah? The more we talk about the world, the more you like something, the more you begin to talk about it. So that's one way we can gauge. This is the first step. Maybe just how cancer has, say, four stages, this has 5 stages. So the more serious it is, the more fatal and dangerous the love of the world is. The first poison, the first effect of the world is that we begin liking it, right? We begin liking it, we talk about it, we start dreaming about it, we have hopes. We say that by this year I want to have that, I want to own that, I want to change this, right? So this stage is in all of us, right? And when I say these things, I'm also saying it so I can guide myself, inshallah, too. I'm not claiming that I am a zahid or somebody that has no dislike of the world. The second stage, to see if the poison of the world has affected us, is to see how anxious we are about material things, about money. Say if we have money in the stock market and it crashes, how do we behave? Do we start pulling out our hair? Do we start, or if the stock market goes up, do we start getting really happy and cheerful, right? So this is the second stage, is that we become really anxious about our money. Oh, I lost this, I gained this, I lost, and you just talk about it over, this happened, and you become really anxious. The third stage, to see if the poison of the world the material world has affected us, is about the way we spend money. How extravagant do we spend it? Do we just keep wasting it? Do we waste it on things that as if somebody would tell us you're throwing away your money, right? So this would be the third stage, is that we just start wasting our money. We have to buy this, that, and then sometimes we can't even afford it and we buy it. And this is the third stage. One of the signs of kamal, of perfection, if somebody has good measure in their spending, somebody has good measure in the way they live, they don't spend too much, they don't spend too little. Having good measure is a sign of perfection. And these were the first three things. The fourth and fifth are more dangerous, but I would like to give a note to make things clear. When I say love of the world here, I'm not saying that we should not work, we should not strive, we should not provide for our family members. Because a person came to the Imam ﷺ and told them that I work hard to provide for my family. And the Imam told them, this is not dunya, this is akhirat that you're talking about. This has a reward. What I'm talking about is loving something for itself, not for what it can do for you. Because these are all tools for us to be able to live our lives more comfortably. It's like that person, they say he had a lot of money and we started counting his money, and he would say, somebody likes you because of a car. Somebody likes you to buy a home. Somebody likes you for, say, the new iPhone. Somebody likes you because of this. Then he said at the end, but I'd like you just for yourself, right? I just like you because of the money, right? So I'm talking about somebody that just likes the dunya for itself and doesn't have zod. If they've removed that from him, he gets really bothered. If he has something and he really likes it and they take that from him, he gets really bothered. So it's really important for us to balance. I'm not saying to not work hard in our lives, but I'm saying is not to be attached. To be attached to these material things, this will cause that poison. But if somebody could have a lot of things but not be attached and can use them, and if they take it all away from them, it won't affect them. The fourth and fifth thing, that the poison now in the fourth and fifth stage, the poison seeps in and is much more dangerous. The love of the material world becomes so strong that a person won't defend the truth because of their love. They're afraid that they'll lose what they have. They're afraid of losing their possessions, right? They're afraid to sometimes defend their friend, their own family member, because they're afraid of what will happen to them. And the fifth, which is the worst stage, and this is the stage that the enemies of Imam Hossein had about the material world, is that they will actually fight against the truth. Not only not defend, they will fight and attack because of their love of the world. And if we look at the soldiers that were promised little dirhams, silver coins, to their generals, like Umar ibn Sa'd, that was promised a big government, right? They attacked Imam Hossein to gain these possessions, these material possessions. And brothers and sisters, it's interesting to know, they say in history that none of these people gained what they were promised. Umar ibn Sa'd did not gain the government of Ray. Ray is a city next to, now it's included basically in Tehran, but it's a city next to Tehran. None of them gained what they were promised. And one of the biggest sins our ulama have is that when they mention the kaba'ir, the biggest sins, the biggest sin that they mention that somebody can ever do is to fight against an infallible imam, a ma'soom. Please recite the salawat, inshallah. So to summarize about the two lessons that we had tonight, the first is that why did Imam Hossein, why did he sacrifice? He spilled the blood of the heart, muhjatuhu, because to save, to show people that the path that society was at was wrong, to save people, to bring them out of ignorance, out of misguidance. And the second point, that the lesson that we learn from Karbala is that why did people attack Imam Hossein? And it was because of the love of the world. And it said that in the narrations, and it says that in the Ziyaratnama, is that because the qarrathu, it confused them, it deceived them, the world. And those 5 stages that I mentioned is that these are 5 stages of the poison of the world, are things that we might all have all of them, but it's something that inshallah we can work to inshallah take away from our heart. But also just to make sure people aren't confused when I say this, working and providing for our family is something very good. What I was mentioning is being attached. One of the best forms of worship, it says tis'atu a'ashar al-ibadah, 9 out of the 10 parts of worship is at-tijara, is working, trade. 9/10 of worship itself is trade, doing halal business. But unfortunately, in how the modern time is and how society is today, things can deceive us and can win our heart. And once it goes into our heart, they say that there's no more room for Allah to be in that heart. Ayatollah Iraqi, one person came to him, this was a very old marja who lived 100 years old. A carpenter came to him and asked him, please give me advice. Our teacher, Ayatollah Mushtahidi, always recommended whenever you see a marja, whenever you see a scholar, ask advice. And this carpenter asked advice from Ayatollah Iraqi. Ayatollah Iraqi told him, you're a carpenter, build a door in front of your heart. And don't allow anybody else besides Allah in that. And that is one of the biggest lessons that inshallah we can learn from Ziyarat Arba'een, is that not to become like the enemies of Imam Hossein, that their life was filled with material pleasure and material world. Please recite a salawat, inshallah. Allama Amini, which was one of our big-time modern scholars, says something interesting about the Panjtan, they call it, about the Prophet, Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hossein. He says that if these infallible 5, the 5 people that were under the cloak of Hadithul Kisa, the Prophet, and his Ahl Bayt, if they were to live and they were in Karbala, all of them would participate in Karbala. But because they did not have enough life span to live and to be in Karbala, each one of them sent a representative. He says that for the Prophet, who was the representative of the Prophet in Karbala? He says it was Ali Akbar. Ashbahu nas khalqan wa khulqan. He was the most similar person to the Prophet. In books of Maghatil, it says that when they saw Ali Akbar, the son of Imam Hossein, some people thought that it was the Prophet that actually had come back to life. Who was sent as Imam Ali's representative? Allama Al-Amini says that it was Imam Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas was sent in place of Imam Ali. This is something that he says. The third, for Imam Hassan, who was sent for Imam Hassan? His son, Qasim ibn Hassan, his young son. For Fatima Zahra, who was her representative in Karbala? It was her daughter Zainab, Salamullah alayha, Zainab. And as we mentioned, that the beginning of Karbala is with Imam Hossein, but the second volume of Karbala is with Imam Sajjad and Zainab. Once this story that I'm going to tell you is narrated from Ayatollah Wahid Khorasani. He says that one of the ulama, Ayatollah Mirza Shirazi, once was in a majalis, and when the person began to describe the musibat for Imam Hussein, he started with دخلت Zainab ala ibn Ziyad. He said that Zainab entered the house of Ibn Ziyad. Zainab entered the palace of Ibn Ziyad. And that was enough. This marja began to cry and said, let's just think about this one line, that Zainab entered the palace of the governor Ibn Ziyad, and began to cry and cry and cry. Because Zainab, salamullah alayha, was the representative of Az-Zahra. Zainab was a prisoner. She was taken as a prisoner in front of Ibn Ziyad. O Imam Hussein, if they had to kill you, we ask ourselves, if they had to and they were forced to kill you, why did they kill you in the state of thirst? Imam Hussein, if they had to kill you, why did they kill you and why did they not bury you? Imam Hussein, sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. At the end of this rosa, I would like to mention something that is recorded in history of when Zainab, salamullah alayha, came to the bodies of those that were killed in Karbala. She began to weep and cry. And it says that she began to cry so much that the soldiers of Umar ibn Sa'd began to feel sorry for the Ahlul Bayt. And she said, Wa Muhammada, O my grandfather, O Muhammad, Sallallahu alayka Malik as-sama. Supplications and salats upon you, O angels, angels of the heavens. She's seeing the bodies. She's seeing the body of Qasim ibn Hassan. She's seeing the body of Al-Abbas. She's seeing the body of her brother Hussein. She says, هذا حسين بالعراء. This is Hussein without clothes. هذا حسين بالعراء مرمل بالدماء. He's covered in blood. مقطع الأعضاء. His body parts are cut into pieces. وانكثلا وبناتك سبايا. She says, and your daughters are prisoners. Ruqayya, 3 years old, has become a prisoner. إلى الله المشتكى. She says, I complain to God, I complain to Allah. وإلى محمد المصطفى. I complain to Prophet Muhammad. وإلى علي المرتضى. I complain to Ali. وإلى فاطمة الزهراء. وإلى حمزة السيد الشهداء. ومحمدا. وهذا حسين بالعراء. This is Hussein naked on the ground without clothes. تسفي عليه ريح الصبا. The winds blow on his body, the desert winds blow on his body. قتيل الأولاد البغايا. The sons of oppressors have killed him. وحزنا وكربا عليك يا أبا عبد الله. اليوم مات جدي رسول الله. Today my grandfather Rasulullah has died. يا أصحاب محمد. O companions of Muhammad, O Ashab Muhammad, هؤلاء ذرية المصطفى. These are the family, these are the children of Mustafa, these are the children of the Prophet. يساقون سوق الصبايا. They're taking them as prisoners. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيُّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُوا. And they who act unjustly shall know to what final place of turning they shall turn back. Salawat, inshallah.